No.
No?
Wait,
Okay.
he's
Well,
my camera.
See.
See.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Michael too.
We have 3 marks on the board. So we just call them Mark with their initial.
Yeah. Growing up in Staten Island, a lot of my friends have the same like 4 names. So most of them were Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
They said you can't really call them one go, so you just call them by their last names. That was, most of us went by our last names, which is easy that way.
Here's Mark cards.
yeah, okay, so maybe we should start.
Well,
Yep.
why don't we wait till?
Take this back.
So welcome to the February meeting of the Community Board 7 Health and Human Services Committee. Maybe we could go around the room and committee members first, say who you are. And first, I also want to introduce our newest member, Dr. Michael Cantor, who is our new public member, and maybe the first public member to participate in a meeting, Community Board 7, since in many years. So I'm Ken Coughlin. I'm co-chair of the board with Saralee Evans. Not the board, I'm jumping, of the committee. And I just thought I'd mention that in terms of this committee, I have a master's degree in psychology from City College, and I worked as a mental health counselor at St. Luke's Roosevelt with both an adult population and then with a teenage population a long time ago, but I still remember a lot. And I also worked as a editor for many years in the field of elder law. So I know a lot about Medicaid and Medicare.
I don't have as many credentials. My name is Rachel, and I'm a member of the committee.
And you're
And Rachel, it goes to Fordham,
Yes, I go to Fordham Lincoln Center.
and there was an article about her in this recent issue of Fordham newspaper, which was very complimentary and said wonderful things.
That's me.
It did.
Michael.
Michael Cantor. I am MD. I'm in internal medicine. I work at Regeneron, which is a pharmaceutical company in Westchester, and but I still see patients at Bellevue on Tuesday afternoons in the medicine clinic. And previously, my area of research was social determinants of health, which is what interested me about this committee.
We have someone.
Do you want to skip me?
I'm from the community. Okay.
Yeah, we'll skip you for now.
Okay. I'm Saralee Evans, and I'm a fairly new member of the board. I was appointed to the board last May, I think, when you were. And I'm on this committee because I'm attracted to the subjects of homelessness and mental health issues and senior problems and all of the things that probably very few other people are attracted to. But I think they're important, and for me, they're very interesting. And I want to see what I can do about them. So, but I didn't work in the area of any of those things. I'm a lawyer. I was a judge for 18 years, but now I'm retired.
And you worked at Craddock.
And I worked at Craddock Riverside in the law project. We represented SRO tenants, individual tenants and the rights of tenants in general. And I loved it, and I worked there 7 years. Yes.
I'm Max Vandervliet. I'm district manager.
Michael Molinari, relatively new to the board, with the committee, for the last year. Also not super credentialed, but just interested in the subject matter.
Okay, and also, and online we have Louisa Craddock, who's got a waiver for illness. You want to say anything, Louisa?
Okay. I have a master's in city planning and was the editor of the zoning resolution for over 20 years. at the Department of City Planning. I'm interested in HHS because I came on and originally was very interested in housing, which I still am, but I think that if you're interested in housing, you have to be interested in health and human services. They really go together.
And also online, we have our board chair, Beverly Donohue. And who is the other person?
Was Semer ready?
Oh, Semer, yeah,
Who was the head of the housing committee?
yeah.
One co-chair.
And here at the table, we have Roberta Semer, former board chair.
And I'm now co-chair of the Budget and Strategy Committee, which develops the district needs and our budget priorities. And I also am chair of the senior task force, which works closely with me. And Ken Conrad is also a member of the senior task force.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, not
Kay.
well,
Kay.
Yeah, Kay.
So should we introduce Kay?
Yeah, so, okay,
I
so,
thought you were gonna-
so I guess Carol's still not here.
She's en route, so I
She's-
just started.
Okay,
I don't know
so
what that looks like.
Shall we wait to introduce you until Carol comes and introduce you both, or?
I think maybe
But Carol's not a board member.
Carol's not, yeah, so we're starting our first agenda. Oh, first we have to approve the agenda.
No, when you finish introducing it.
Okay, yeah, Kay Carpin's on the community seven.
Proud member of Community Board 7. Gee, credentials. Boy, I have 3 master's degree and a PhD in ethics.
What?
So I should be very ethical or something.
Doesn't count anymore.
I know, no ethics. That's not a thing. Anyway, from Union Seminary and Jewish Theological Seminary. And I work around the corner at St. Paul and St. Andrew Methodist Church.
You're the pastor.
Yes.
We have a business.
And we have a visitor. so-
Yeah, hi, I'm Kane because I'm an interested community member. My name's Christy Jared. I'm a PhD prepared nurse and my area of focus is obesity and adverse childhood experiences. Right now I work at Yeshiva University teaching in a accelerated bachelor's degree program, brand new program on the east side. And like I said, I'm an interested community member. I've seen advertisements or gotten emails about these board meetings for many years. And so I thought I would come by and see what it was all about.
Can I ask everyone to speak up because we're hybrid and they're probably having trouble hearing us.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
we have, these are the mics, by the way,
Okay.
right there.
A little owls and up there.
I don't think these work.
I
do they?
believe they're in the process of choosing additional new board members. I don't know if the application process is closed yet now or not, but if you're
Right.
really interested, you might look online at Brad Lander, that is, who's the borough president?
Mark.
Mark,
Mark
I think it's
Mark
ended.
Levine, okay.
I don't know if you're still open.
Okay.
Hi, come on in. Is this for help?
Yeah,
Yes.
I know it's 7:00.
It's okay.
that's okay.
It was.
We started at 6:30.
Thank you.
So first we have to approve the agenda. And well, when speaking of the agenda, we were gonna have Ryan Health here, but they had to postpone until March. So a month from today, March 25th, they will be here. So come back for that if you're tuning in just for that. And so all in favor of the agenda as amended? Is your hand up, Louisa? Okay. So that's, how many is it? 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay. I think that's everybody.
Hello.
Are you a community person or are you?
Yes,
on
my
the-
name is Diane Burhenney, and I've applied to be a public board member
Of
for
another community?
Community Board 7, and I'm particularly interested in the health and human services area.
Great.
So I submitted an application earlier, and I think on the 28th, I'm supposed to hear.
28th is
I
the
submit-
deadline.
I submitted the application online and got a receipt. I asked, but so it had been.
And you applied to be on the Health and Human Services Committee?
They asked me what I was interested in, and I said that.
I think,
Full board.
yeah,
For
I
the
think
board.
you mean for the general board, right?
For CB7, for the.
CB, right, 7 with a particular interest in health. and
Oh,
human
you
services.
applied to become a member of the board.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because we just started this thing called the public member
Yes,
program.
that's, I applied for the public
The
member.
public- she applied to the public-
Right, not through Mark Levine. I
Oh,
applied,
really?
right, which is a 2-year different kind of commitment than you all put out.
I think we have to.
So I was,
investigate.
Well, we never saw your application.
Well, we'll have to investigate it.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes,
think
well,
that
I
that's
can
a-
show you, I got a receipt.
We-
I asked, please let me know that you've received it. And I got an email back that said, yes, we have received your resume and your application.
Was
I'm
it from
glad
the
they-
borough president's office, or do you know?
No,
who-
to you folks, the email, the
We can always look at it.
address,
We can give it a look after.
that was,
Why don't we not hold the meeting up?
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you.
That's
don't go.
fine.
Right,
absolutely.
okay, but thank you for coming. So, Kay, we wanted to have a discussion, given the events of the day, on how we can protect our neighbors who might happen to be undocumented, and how they can stand up for their rights. I just thought I would mention a couple of facts to start us off, some of which were news to me. I mean, 62% of undocumented immigrants have lived in the US for 10 years or more.
Yep.
41% have been to college and a quarter have a bachelor's degree. Undocumented immigrants paid 3.1 billion in New York State and local taxes in 2022. There are 42,000 undocumented chefs, cooks, preparers, and waiters in New York State, 7,000 undocumented caregivers in the state, and more than 48,000 undocumented construction workers.
Wow. All right, so I'm not the expert, Carol is. I wonder if she, was still working on the 7 o'clock time to start or not, but in any case, she's told me she's on her way. Let me share you my experience with documented and undocumented persons in our community board area, and in particular, people who have arrived very recently. I'm just gonna, ramble a little bit, and then if you have questions, I'd be very, very happy to answer. While I'm doing that, I did bring cards at your request.
They're
So
so popular.
yeah,
They are.
they are,
I gave
yeah.
all mine had so. many
Oh,
good-
good. Well, I brought plenty more, and I have 5,000 more at the church. So please let me know. I have them in French and Spanish and English. And so the Spanish is probably the most useful, and I'll send those around. Take as many as you want. On one side, it'll give you English. On the other side, in Spanish. These are basically a very shorthand version of Know Your Rights. And it's important for our undocumented and other new neighbors to understand what, say, ICE is allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. ICE knows what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. They don't always follow the law. And as Carol will explain, they're allowed to lie. And our undocumented or otherwise asylum seeker or other immigrant neighbors are not allowed to, that's how you get in trouble. But there are many rights that anybody has. This may be Carol. So I'll just share, I'll pass these around, take as many as you want. There's plenty more. And if you come into contact with people, this is a very handy thing to be able to, I also have them in French. So if you
Do you have
particularly.
Chinese?
Mhm.
Do you have Chinese?
We don't have Chinese, but there are
There are
Chinese.
Chinese,
There are
right.
Chinese,
There's
yes.
19 languages.
Yes. So we keep them in Spanish. Most of our people that we work with at St. Paul and St. Andrew are either from South America or West Africa. and then a smattering from Ukraine, Russia, and some other places. So we found the French and the Spanish to be essential. So we want to both understand what we can do to be supportive, and also be able to make sure that people who are very afraid right now, petrified in the immigrant community, whether you're documented or not. And what does documented mean in this current environment? Oh, Carol, God bless you. You're here just in time.
He's just getting out
I
of his
was.
death.
Sorry,
All
I had
right.
7 o'clock. Is that all right?
Yeah.
It was moved up.
It was moved.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I didn't make
Think
it.
Shelley let us know.
Okay.
Hi, very nice to meet you.
But where is Sheldon?
Also, still at 7 o'clock. He was looking
Coming
at
at 7.
All right. So,
What did you do?
I was just babbling about, our know your rights cards and so forth like that. So I think you could take it from the top. We have been really, really blessed to have Carol and her expertise as an advocate and an activist on behalf of new arrivals.
But
Yes.
I just have to say that they are doing such an amazing job at the church that if you can stop by, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. They have basically converted the entire church at different times of the day into a very user-friendly situation for immigrants to feel totally safe.
Yeah, every Monday morning, please come by. I'll be glad to show you around. Show you what we're trying to do on behalf of our newest neighbors here.
But there are many, many people on the Upper West Side.
Yes, hundreds of families still. Just within a couple of blocks here, several hundred families.
From here.
Yeah.
Wow. Are they in SROs or
They're in residences
residences?
or a couple of with Hercs.
Some of those are closed.
Some of them are closing, yeah. The residences are still. The nearest one that I can think of is Riverside Terrace, which is on 88th Street.
Yeah.
There's a couple hundred families there.
Wow. Stratford. They
They've
still
been
have,
closing. They've been
Maybe
pushing
close.
people out.
that's
Yeah.
on your book. Yeah.
one block.
Yeah, do you see a lot of people there now anymore?
There's still folks around, but I think I think it's just moving one block, but they're closing one.
They are closing slowly.
Okay, why don't we continue the, and Carol, this is basically our microphone.
Okay,
So, and we have people on,
hi guys.
not just them, but other people you can't see.
Okay.
Ken, you have Louisa's hand up.
Oh, Louisa, do you have a question?
Oh, no, that was left over from before when I voted. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
So where would you like me to start?
Just speak loud.
Yeah. Well, maybe tell us, the two questions I was looking for answers to were what we can do to contribute to help our undocumented neighbors, protect them, and also what their rights are and how they can find out what their rights are.
Mm-hmm. Great, okay. So, hi. Thank you all so much for having me here today. And thank you, Kay, for the introduction.
Could you say your name?
My name is Carol Scott.
Thank you.
Sure. And I have been working as an advocate for immigrant rights since about 2016, when when things kind of exploded, and we had Trump version 1. And that's also when I started working very closely with SPSA's community defense program. I also worked with New Sanctuary Coalition, which has since disbanded, but some of you may have heard of it. New Sanctuary Coalition was an immigrant-led organization that offered pro se clinics for people who couldn't get immigration attorneys, because that has been always really, really challenging. And there are very strict deadlines that people need to meet in order to file applications or they have severe penalties. So the Pro Se Clinic helped folks figure out how to advocate for themselves. It was overseen by attorneys, but people represented themselves in court. And the other part of that program was the accompaniment program, which was groups of volunteers who were not at risk, who would go with people to 26 Federal Plaza or 200 Barrett Street or wherever, and be with them, and be with them in those really stressful, scary kind of court situations. And those were my biggest roles with that organization. Excuse me. So the situation now is everything old is new again, right? There's no new thing. The situation is very similar, but more organized against immigrant folks. And I think more effective too, because they've been planning and refining, for so long. So it feels much more fraught. But the rights that people have are still the same. So far, so good. These rights still exist. And this, in terms of supporting undocumented folks in your neighborhood and in your community, being a source of these cards is super, super helpful. So if, I would suggest grab a handful and just have them with you and give them out around the neighborhood. If you know folks who are immigrants, you don't have to assume that somebody is undocumented. You can just say, give to your friends, spread it around. The idea is to get the information out there as much as possible. Basically, the rights are the most important rights for undocumented folks are that if ICE comes to your home and knocks on the door and says something seemingly benign, like we're doing, we're investigating an identity theft case. Could you come out? We just have a few questions. Don't open the door. Don't come out. Ask people to identify themselves. If they say they have a warrant, ask to see the warrant. And this is like all over social media now, so forgive me if I'm repeating things you've already heard, but it bears repeating. ICE can only enter a private property with a warrant signed by a judge, a judicial warrant, which will say specifically the address of the property and the name of the person that they're looking for. And this is really hard to get, so ICE very rarely has them. What they do have are really easy to get, administrative warrants that are papers that ICE generates and ICE signs and says, this is a warrant for so-and-so, and the ICE officer has signed it and they'll flash it, excuse me, and it's intimidating. But it does not grant access to private property.
How do people know the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
So excellent question. A judicial warrant is signed by a judge, and the signature line will say judge blah, blah, blah. It'll have the name, and then underneath it will say judge blah, blah, blah. At the very top, it will say such and such court, right? If it's an administrative warrant, it will say Department of Homeland Services. And down at the bottom, it'll have a signature line and it will say ICE officer, right? So you want to look for the name of a court. You don't have to recognize the name of a court, but if it says a court and down at the bottom, it says judge, then you look more closely and confirm the details of a judicial warrant. The very reliable rule of thumb is that ICE doesn't have a judicial warrant. And if they do have a judicial warrant, they're generally not knocking because they don't have to, right? With an administrative warrant where they have to be given permission to enter the private property. And ways that permission is given is by opening the door. If you open the door and say, yeah, I'll come out and talk to you, you have given them permission to come into your private property.
But don't you have to open the door to read the piece of paper?
No, so you can ask them to slide it under the door.
Okay.
If that's not possible, if it's a door that meets the floor, you can ask them to leave it and leave their contact number, and you'll have somebody look at it and get back to them. Thank you very much. But the really important understanding that you have to get to before you can think on your feet like that is I don't have to let them in. I don't have to let them in. ICE knocking at somebody's door has the same authority as your neighbor knocking at your door. You can let them in or not let them in. It is up to you, right?
Can you speak to situations where these encounters might be happening not in a residence, but maybe in a street or a place of employment?
Yeah. So on the street, it's a little bit easier for ICE because they don't have to get that access to a private place, right? The rights that people have still remain. You have the right to remain silent, even if ICE has grabbed you on the street. You have the right to leave if you're not being detained. So that's why on these cards, and on Mondays, when we're working with impacted communities, we practice saying this. I don't want to talk to you. I'm choosing to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer. Right? These are all things that people can say, regardless of the type of warrant that somebody has, regardless of whether they're in your home or not in your home.
And what right does ICE have to stop people outside, like I guess, out in the park or at a place of employment? Like what gives them the right to?
It's a really good question, right? So there's the right that they have to do it, and then they do it, right?
Is there a need for a cause, or is it just purely sort of?
So technically, according to the law, ICE only has authority to stop people that they can reasonably assume are doing something criminal or are here illegally.
So
Profiling, 100%. So when folks are out on the street, one of the ways that ICE will have somebody identify themselves is they'll call a name. They'll call out somebody's name. And if you turn around, you're acknowledging that you're that person. So this is the point that we've gotten to in our city, right? Like somebody calls you on the street and you have to question, should I turn around and say hello or not? Because it might be a dangerous situation for me. The right to remain silent, the right to say you want to speak to an attorney, the right to not answer any questions until you have spoken to an attorney, all of those apply regardless of what situation the person is in. Even if they have been detained and arrested, those rights to remain silent, to speak to an attorney are still intact, and people should be repeating them.
And those are for citizens and non-citizens?
That's for everybody. Anybody who's here. Yep. If you're walking down the street, you have these rights. Yeah. So if ICE is stopping you or stopping someone that you're with, or you see probably what folks are likely to encounter here is we see something happening, right? Forgive me if I'm doing my own profiling here, but I'm assuming that none of us are targeted right now or yet, right? If we see something happening to someone else, the first thing that is important for us to do is take a breath, because the instinct to react out of anger or like knee-jerk or adrenaline can be very strong depending on your personality and your practices, and it can work for good or for bad for the person that we're ultimately trying to help, right? So ICE doesn't have any control over people who are citizens. They do have control over the person who's not documented. So our bad behavior may be taken out on the person that we're trying to protect. So we got to be aware of that. I come from a de-escalating place. Not everybody does, but my advice to SPSA and to anybody that I've talked to about this has come from that place of don't escalate the situation, don't go off on somebody. other people have different philosophies, so it's, you know, choose your own adventure and know who you're with. If you're working with friends, then have that conversation beforehand. Like, I'm gonna be calm regardless of what happens. Is that your like plan, or do you feel like
No, I'm just,
punching a Nazi?
I'm just trying to learn.
I didn't mean to signal you out, I
No,
was
no,
just
no.
pretending.
No, but I think it raises the interesting point, or probably the point that a lot of us feel, where, like, what can we do in those moments? What rights, like, what protections do we have? Is it an obstruction of justice, or is it, you know, something that's going to, you know, like, so in addition to making the situation worse for folks, does it also open us up to any sort of?
Yeah, excellent questions. You have to know what risks you're taking if you're going to step into a situation or not. ICE does not have authority over citizens. NYPD does. So the rule of thumb is don't interfere and don't impede, right? Like, don't necessarily stand in front of the person and say, you're not getting to them except through me. That is interfering with ICE's business, and that could lead you into conflict with NYPD that you may not want to deal with. The things that you can do are talk to the person and say, no firma nada, don't sign anything, don't speak, shh, don't answer questions. Language barriers can be a problem, so use whatever context you have to get the message across, right? Say you want a lawyer, you know, ask for a lawyer. Don't answer the questions. And you can speak to the ICE agent and ask, is this person being detained? Are they being detained? No? Are they free to go? Okay. And then you take the person and you guide them calmly and slowly away. Never run, never lie to an ICE officer or a cop, because all of those things will come back and bite the person you're trying to help, right? So help the person understand their rights, have a card to give them in their language, show the card to the officer, give it to the officer. You can film ICE officers and cops. There is no regulation against that. What is really important if you're filming is to also film your compliance. So if ICE is saying, back up, film your feet stepping backwards and narrate. I'm backing away. I'm not interfering. I'm just asking, is this person free to go? Do you have a warrant for their arrest? Can I see that warrant? Can they see that warrant? If the weird situation happens and they do have a judicial warrant, the next thing to check is the person's name on the warrant? Is it spelled correctly? And is it complete? Because if those things are not in place, the warrant is not valid. Right? But like I said, it's very unusual to run into that. So important things, regardless of whether somebody's coming into a home or you're interacting with ICE on the street, take a breath, calm your own energy, ask the person, or try to make connection with the person and say, you don't have to talk to them. I'll stay here. Do you want me to film? Do you want me to film this for you? And then you can talk to the ICE agent. Is this person being detained? Do you have a warrant? Are they free to go? Right? All of those things. And ICE will try lies and ruses and all kinds of things to get around what you're saying. ICE may say, it's no problem, we're just investigating, you know, a crime that is occurring in your area. We just want to talk to you. How long have you lived at this address? Right? And it comes in, and your help as an ally can be to refocus on what you want the conversation to be. Are they free to go? Are they being detained?
do you have a warrant? Right?
Are they required to answer those questions?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So what happens at that impasse? If you ask the question, you know, are they being detained or are they free to go and they choose not to answer?
Oh, are they required to answer those questions?
Yeah,
ICE.
it's ICE.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
ICE
Oh,
is-
they are.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That
Yes.
makes it a little easier.
Yeah, and
I
that.
was gonna say, I don't know if they do.
Like, yeah, no, and that also is a good time to be filming. Because if you do get an officer who's gonna say, I don't have to answer you, who are you? You're nobody, I don't have to answer. You're getting all of that on film, which may help down the line if there is an arrest and if there's an attorney to have documented ICE's misbehavior.
So if ICE actually does arrest you.
Yeah.
From what I've read in the papers, they've fired so many of the immigration judges. Is there a chance at all that somebody will get a hearing?
Well, it's a complicated question because with the expansion of expedited removal, not everybody is put into the immigration court track anyway. So if somebody does get arrested, the most important stuff to remember is they still don't have to answer questions. They still should ask for a lawyer. They should not sign anything until they are seeing a lawyer. And if somebody's being arrested, you can ask the officer, the ICE officer, can you tell me where you're taking them? Can you tell me where you're transferring them? You can ask the person, is there somebody I should call? Is there somebody I can call for you? Right? And help in that way. It's really traumatic to see ICE take somebody. So if you manage any of those things, you're winning. You're helping. Yeah.
I'm the president of a housing organization,
Okay, great.
low income housing, and people are bringing in friends and relatives. Okay, so we don't know, always who's who, although we check them out that they're related and they're safe.
Mhm.
So for myself, if I'm there, or for a manager or a social worker who's responsible, and people enter, what restriction can they give them? Because yes, this is my place. Yes, I am responsible to these people.
Yeah.
So an agent comes in or a group comes in, we're here to see Joe Ramos, okay? What can I say? What can they say?
So that's a really great segue into the next part of your question, which was about businesses and other locations. If you are responsible for a semi-public, semi-private area, if you have a business, if you have a housing situation with a lobby or whatever, create a private space. Create a barrier in some way. If it's a door that you put a sign on that says private, if it's a velvet rope that you put up after the door before they get to the elevators that says no one passed here without checking in, create a space that clearly says you can't just walk in off the street into this place. This is not public. Then you've made that place
It's a
private.
good advice in general.
Yes, yes. Then you've made that place private and you've required a judicial warrant for ICE to cross that line. And again, that judicial warrant would have to have a name, an address, everything spelled out for exactly who they're looking for. If you are like at the church in charge of a space and there are like employees, if you have a business, if you run a bodega or any of these kind of places, it's really important to put a protocol in place and make sure that everybody who's going to be managing that front door knows the protocol. They don't have to know the ins and outs of every single right and all of that. What they do need to know is to say, I'm not allowed to let anybody in, let any non-local law enforcement, that's the buzzword, that means ICE, non-local law enforcement. They're not NYPD, yeah? I'm not allowed to let you in until, like we say, Pastor K can come and check your document. Do you mind waiting here? I'll go look for him. And then you go look for them. right? Don't answer any questions about who lives there. You're under no obligation to say, yes, this person lives here, no, this person doesn't, unless they have a subpoena signed by a judge for the documents containing your tenants.
We have 30 building story that just hit me besides the sentence.
Yeah. If they're asking for tenant ledgers, that's a subpoena that has to be signed by a judge, and it doesn't require immediate compliance. The only thing that would require immediate compliance is letting them come into a private space if they have a judicial warrant that spells out the address they're coming to and the person they're looking for. That would require the compliance of letting them come into the space. If they come into the space, you as the owner could say, I'm the manager of this building, I don't consent to a search. I don't consent to a search of my body, a search of my building. I don't consent. That doesn't mean that they won't do it. But again, it's important to assert the rights and document those rights if they're denied. Document them being denied if that happens.
Because that can help them in a hearing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, if God forbid something happens and people are taken and it does come to a hearing and there's an attorney, the attorney will be very grateful for that footage of, you know, ICE basically making everything they found invalid.
But to Saralee's question is anybody getting a hearing?
Right, so folks go into, let me see, I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but when ICE is doing big raids and doing pickups, they're trying to find the most vulnerable people who would be subject to expedited removal. Expedited removal denies you the right to a hearing, denies you the right to be seen before a judge, denies you the right to argue for your own case. The people that are at risk of expedited removal tend to be folks who have been here 2 years or less, tend to be folks who crossed without inspection. They crossed without being seen by Border Patrol. They don't have an entry document. They don't have a court date, like HRA doesn't, or ICE doesn't know they're there. They went under the radar. Those are the folks that they're trying to get. And those folks would not go into the hearing track anyway. The folks that are in immigration court are either defensively asking for relief of deportation, or in the immigration courts, it's really defense is a relief for deportation orders. And those deportation orders can come if you're picked up, but you're not expedited. You're not expedited removal, you're put into immigration court. There's an incredible backlog in the courts for asylum applications. That's usually the one that gets the press. Like there's so many asylum applications backed up, but there's a lot of other stuff that happens at the court before you get to that point. And all of it is backed up. I don't want to go too deep into that because it's kind of, it's more than one night of trainings. Yeah.
Do you have any, this current mayoral administration is exchanging their own corruption for, it's the reality.
Yeah, it is.
I'll put that on record. It's ridiculous that he's not been removed, but he's trading that for sort of allowing ICE to come into the city. Do you have any statistical data points you can point to either in this neighborhood or in the city at large that have shown any sort of trends that, how it compares either to a national level or anything, locally? Is New York being targeted any more than any other area, or this neighborhood or this community board any more than any other neighborhood area?
I think I hear the question. I don't have statistics and I don't have hard data numbers. I apologize for that.
No, that's right.
I can say that self-proclaimed sanctuary cities are being targeted. New York is one of them. Unfortunately, we have a mayor that also targets the sanctuary city status here in New York. So that just raises the bar for everybody that's here. New York used to have the highest success rate granting of asylum in the immigration courts. And again, that changes whether or not you have an attorney. It goes way up if you have an attorney, and most folks who are pro se don't do so well. And even the success rate was very small. So I don't want to give the impression like you came to New York, you got asylum. It was still down here, but everybody else was like down here, right? I don't know if that's still the case. Yeah, I don't know, and I don't want to speculate. And I should have said at the very beginning, I am not an attorney, and nothing I'm saying it should be interpreted as legal advice. It's legal information, 100%, but it would never replace a consultation with an attorney. And our bottom line advice and hope and help for folks is to get them connected with talking to an actual attorney, whether that's at SPSA on Monday morning for at least a one-on-one consultation, or, you know, some other way. Yeah.
To add to that, that the several synagogues are doing legal advice a couple of evenings a month.
Yeah.
So if you know any lawyers, let me know, because it's lawyers and volunteers who could speak Spanish and can, you know, help facilitate.
Yeah. There's a lot that people can do in the courts, in immigration court, without an attorney. There's nothing magical about a law degree that makes you more able to fill out an application than somebody without a law degree. The success rate, this is my opinion, it has much more to do with elitism and attorney bias than it does actual difficulty. The reasons for asylum being granted haven't changed. The challenges, the arguments that need to be made haven't changed. So if you are educated in and up to the moment, which is super hard now because everything's changing like every 20 minutes, right? You can help them do that. But even with New Sanctuary, we had attorneys, volunteer attorneys that oversaw groups of people working with individual people. So nothing was submitted or finalized until it got a look over by an attorney in the sign off.
Just flagging, you also have another hand from Louisa.
Okay. Could you tell me what kind of services St. Paul and St. Andrews offers? Do you offer sleepover? Do you offer what you have actually on site? Or is it just a referral service?
So right now, SPSA is not offering overnight or sanctuary to folks. They don't have the capacity to do that. What we do have in place is a weekly resource fair. We call it Miracle Mondays. And it's from 9 a.m. to 11:30, sometimes 12. And folks come and hear a presentation from a rotating group of volunteers that yesterday included representatives from the DA's office talking about fraud and protecting yourself from folks who say they're immigration attorneys but actually aren't. And that, you know, it's a huge problem because there's like opportunists everywhere. We also offer a steady stream of basic goods like diapers in multiple sizes, socks when we can get them, food for people to eat and bring their kids. We offer childcare so kids can have a place to just play and be for a couple of hours while their parents either sit, talk, connect, relax, be with their community, and or take advantage of the other services that we offer. Roughly once a month, we have a big, I would say huge, clothing free store where clothes that are all dropped off on Sunday are sorted like crazy on Sunday. And then folks come in and take fresh direct bags full of clothes on Monday. And then because
this weekend.
It's happening this weekend. And because we don't have storage space, then on Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever is left over goes to a free store in collaboration with Wisca.
Yeah.
Yeah, in collaboration with Wisca. So, yeah, clothing, food, information. We partner with an organization called VIA, which is Venezuelan Immigrants Assistance. And they are amazing, amazing source of information, community member to community member. Like, here's how you apply for TPS. Here's the thing that you need to watch out for. Here's the deadline you need to make. Here's how you work on this. Here's how you manage the subways. Like, community orientation as well as practical, let's help you get through this. And also model of, yeah, you can get through this. You need the information, that's all. You know, you're able to do this. We have also worked with a number of legal organizations like Bronx Legal Services and NYLAG, and the legal services through the United Methodist Church. So we have rotating immigration attorneys who come and do know your rights, and then also one-on-one quick question and answers with folks. Not quick, they sit there for hours and just answer questions one-on-one afterwards. So it varies and it's very fluid, because when we first started doing this, when the buses first started coming, we realized people need a place to go. They literally have nowhere to go, and they need some information. So we opened the doors and we started with backpacks and clothes and Metro cards, $20 Metro cards. And then like 40 people came, you know, it was like, great, here we are, we're doing a concrete thing. And it feels really great to do something concrete in the face of something that's so systemic, right? So the next week, 75 people came. Okay, great, 75 backpacks, here you go, boom, 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 boom. We need to get more donations for those Metro cards, right? Okay. And then the next week, it was like Migrant Yelp went out and gave us really great reviews, because we started getting 200, 300 people, and word just spread. You know, it's people in need organize and they share information with each other. So if you start doing something, the word will get out. That's been our experience. And because it has changed so much over the past 2 years, we've had to be very fluid and nimble in terms of people don't need the backpacks anymore. They really need socks. Okay, we're going to do a push for socks. Okay, the kids we have a lot of kids, we need to get some bikes. So then we got donations for bikes and for strollers and all of these other things. And then sometimes it's just this random shipment of Razor scooters showed up as a donation. Okay, we're raffling off scooters today, you know? So it is very fluid, and there's no cookie cutter other than create a safe place. Create a place where people know that they're welcome, where they're going to be treated with dignity and respect. And the information that they get is going to be true. They can trust the information that they're going to get. That's the cookie cutter. And then the other stuff you just figure out as you go.
I was wondering if maybe, Kay, you told me about a sponsor program. Could you maybe talk a little about that?
Yeah, I think this is the SITCH program.
Okay.
I can say a word about that. Yeah. Okay, this is a wonderful, I would say almost a quirk in the law, but it's really lovely. If you are acquainted with a minor, and in New York State, that's somebody under 21 who has been abandoned by one or more parents, or have had one or more parents pass away. They are able to apply through a family court for something called SITCH,
Special Immigration Juvenile
Status. Thank you. I can never remember. Special Immigration Juvenile Status. This is a wonderful thing that anybody can do. Yeah, that's right. I did it last year for a young man from Guinea, and we're just on today. It doesn't require anything other than you agreeing to be a person, a resource, a caring person. There's no necessarily a financial obligation of any kind. But if you're able to be a guarantor of this person, and are willing to get to know them a little bit, go to court. In my case, it was Queens Family Court, and talk to a judge and say, yes, I'm here for this person. My young man was 20, so his clock was ticking. So we did it fairly quickly. His name is Amadou. And so with, and it changed his life. It changed his life. And not because I did something extraordinary, I didn't. But he was then eligible for a different kind of status, this special immigration juvenile status, which has enabled him to get working papers. He's now working as a security guard. He's the gentlest person in the world. I'm not sure how good a security guard is, but he has a job, a place to live, and the ability to remain in the United States. His father died in Guinea. His mother remarried, and the stepfather kicked him out of the house. So this is a terrible story. However, now he's living here, creating community among fellow migrants and others. Yeah.
So how does someone apply for that?
So I can get this whole committee information about that.
And Gail Brewer has done that.
Yes, she just did.
She has a whole bunch of kids that she's.
Yeah, just talked about. She has a young man from Guinea also who came over to the house for dinner, and she cooked a special, Italian meal, and the guy's like, I don't really eat noodles. I just eat rice. Anyway, but it's a lovely thing to do, and it's so powerful, and as I say, it's so simple. It's so simple.
Can I just interject
yes,
one
please.
thing here? So there are a couple of pieces of this. One is sponsorship and the other is SIDGE. One is an immigration status and the other is a guardianship status. So I would just caution that if you're interested in doing this, awesome. Find out all the information and talk to a lawyer. Talk to an immigration attorney so that you don't inadvertently do something that might backfire on your friend.
A lot of these young people have attorneys. What they don't have is a person.
Sponsor.
A sponsor, 25 years old or older, who would be willing to say, I'm your person.
Does a young man live with you?
No.
Does he have to live with you?
No, does not have to.
No.
No, yeah. Unless you're Candace Braun, in which case she's like, the person who knows the most about this is a person from Rhoda, Candace, who of course goes over the top with it, but has her young person living in their apartment.
And the other problem that's facing the community is that we got a huge influx of asylum seekers with children who were put in many public schools in districts. In Community Board 7, which is, well, it's District 3, but District 3 goes beyond.
Yeah.
And a group of people have formed to really work with them. It's incredible. Kay and I and Carol have been going to the meetings for a couple of
years.
They're awesome. The D3
awesome.
Open Arms.
But the problem now is that after January 20th, a lot of the parents are afraid to send their kids to school. That they'll be picked up while their kids are in school.
Yeah.
So
it's a real legit fear, and it's one of the heartbreaking ones. And it brings me to just one more thing that I want to mention in terms of helping folks out. That fear of participating in daily life, like letting your kids go to school, going to get groceries even, or coming to church, or coming to an ESL class, is real. And one of the things that parents in that position and parents in general really need to be thinking about is, what's the plan? If something like that happens, like, how do I move out of the shock and grief of that moment and say, okay, we have a plan. And there is a packet of information that y'all can Google called the Family Emergency Preparedness Toolkit. And it includes things like a checklist. Here are all the important documents that I need to know where are. Here are the things that are important for my kid to carry all the time. Here are the things that are important for me to carry all the time. Here's the form to designate somebody as a temporary parental figure. So that's not giving full custody over, but it is giving somebody the right to register the kid in school, to take the kid to medical visits, to, you know, make those parental decisions for that limited period of time without the parent giving up any parental rights. It's really helpful. It's not hard to fill out. We had one of our clinics, we had about 25 people that worked with volunteers to fill these packets out. And it can be a really hard conversation to have because you're asking people to think specifically about the worst situation that they can imagine.
It's the same problem we have with seniors with planning for end of life.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know,
Hard
that same-
conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's so super important and also important then that the school has that information.
Yeah,
Because God
update the blue
forbid,
cards.
end of the day comes, a
And mom
child,
doesn't come to pick
a
up.
child is not picked up.
Yeah.
Who do they call? What do they do? And so for a number of, we have a tutoring program in addition to this, and almost all the families are not documented. So we have information, the schools all have a name of somebody, their tutor or my wife or somebody that, you know, they'll call and somebody who can come pick them up.
I hate to interrupt, but I have to run in a few minutes. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm the CEO of Bellevue Hospital.
Oh,
wow. That's amazing.
I was asked to come.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about 2 months in, almost 2 months.
What's your name, please?
It's Eric Way, Dr. Eric Way.
We're I was just about to conclude this
Yeah.
part of the meeting, get to your section, if you can wait.
Sure.
a little
Well,
bit.
Another minute?
I can wait a minute.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Can I say something directly? So I'm really glad that you're here. And I hope that one of the takeaways that you can have is that security guards at the front need to know the information. There needs to be a policy in the hospital so that ICE is not given free reign of the hospital, so that your doctors, your nurses, your frontline people are absolutely clear on confidential information and who to go to. So I just
Just a quick interjection. I know that people from Goddard Riverside, people from Project Carlton, people from Lighthouse Guild attended some of the very important sessions that taught them how to take care of people within their buildings, within their.
Yeah.
Carol, I think that's a very important issue because many hospitals are acting proactively to shut down healthcare for trans youth without judicial oversight of that. They're acting in that kind of way. And I think in terms of mental health and services is a very, very important issue about bringing people to know their rights. And also to speak with CEOs who are making those decisions about what kinds of services are being offered to what kinds of people.
So I think this is a really valuable conversation. On the other hand, we have Bellevue, and we'd like to hear from them.
Yeah.
Can we take a break from this and maybe resume that conversation after the discussion of Bellevue's problem right now?
If you all,
If
I know
people-
Kay has to leave, but Carol, if you want to
Carol?
stick around.
I can stay for a bit.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I mean, we would like to hear more, I think it's just, everybody's engaged.
I'm happy to answer
So-
questions, but I don't want to cut into
Yeah.
documents.
Okay, why don't we move on to Bellevue and then come back?
Right.
So,
Thank you. And I'm
Thank
putting
you,
the rest
Kay.
of the cards here.
Thank
And we
you
have
very
5,000 more at the church, so please. Come by.
so we have, now we have a discussion on funding for New York Health and Hospitals, Bellevue, in light of the closure of impending closure of Beth Hospital. And we're honored to have Dr. Eric Way here. Wait, did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay. And also Ryan Fodero, okay, and Sage Robinson, is she online?
No.
Out there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's, okay, so, you want to tell us what this is about and
So I'll just introduce myself and kind of talk about Bellevue, and then hand over for the request. So I'm an emergency physician by clinical background. I came with Dr. Mitchell Katz from Los Angeles. I worked for LA Department of Health Services. Before coming here, that was about 7 years ago. I've been working at the system level for the past 7 years as a senior vice president and chief quality officer. During that time, I served as interim CEO at Elmhurst in 2020, Harlem in 2021, and Lincoln in 2023. But as of January 6th, I've become the permanent CEO at Bellevue Hospital.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's major.
Thank you. And so, right, somebody told me that Bellevue is truly a national treasure and to take good care of it. As you know, it's the oldest hospital in the country, started 289 years ago. Through yellow fever, tuberculosis, HIV, Ebola, COVID. We've taken care of New Yorkers through every crisis, and we serve the most vulnerable populations, whether that be severe mental illness, LGBTQIA plus community, those who are undocumented. That's our mission, right? Anybody who comes through our doors deserves the same level and quality and safety and experience of healthcare as the person with, high-end private insurance going off the street to NYU. That's the mission that gets me excited every morning to come to work and to put my head on my pillow, exhausted, but feeling like I made a difference in the world. That's our doctors, that's our nurses, that's all of our support staff. Really live and breathe this mission. And so it's a real honor. We have about 11,000 staff. Our volumes pre-COVID were in 400s per day that were admitted to the hospital. Today it was 838. So all that surge space, extra ICUs, extra med-surg wards that we built to handle the surge of COVID are now just full of our regular ICU med-surg patients. And so people are voting with their feet to come to Bellevue Hospital. People are coming because of deferred, delayed healthcare during COVID. And more people are coming because of the asylum seekers. We see a lot of increase in deliveries, almost a 45% increase. And so we're bursting at the seams, but we're going to keep serving our mission. And I think my job as the CEO is I'm asked to be a steward of our funding sources and to do the most good, provide the most care for the most vulnerable New Yorkers with every cent that I have.
So if your number of patients served has doubled in the last 5 years, has your funding doubled in the last 5 years?
It has increased, but not doubled, right? So it's
That's why they're here.
Yeah, no.
But so our funding
Staffing also, has your staffing?
Staffing has increased. Some of it we had to start with agency staffing, but we've done a tremendous job of recruiting full-time staff because they're the ones who really live and breathe the mission, right? And so our annual budget for health and hospitals is about $14 billion now, but that includes like the asylum seeker work, test and trace for COVID, et cetera. Bellevue is about 1.6 of that. Yes.
Spending 2 days a week at Bellevue with patients. It's outstanding.
Yeah.
I know the answer, but what is the relationship between NYU and Bellevue?
Yeah, it is a very special partnership. So NYU is our medical school affiliate. And what that means is that they send medical students and residents and fellows, so those are physicians in training, to Bellevue as part of their education. But we pay NYU as part of our medical school affiliation agreement to hire the doctors. So the attendings often are working between both campuses. So it's the same doctor you're seeing at NYU that is seeing Bellevue patients, the same surgeons doing surgery at NYU, they're doing surgery. And so that, as you can imagine, it helps us, work on this health equity issue, right?
And I'll tell you that when I tell people which doctors did the surgery on various people with treatment, they said that's the best doctor in NYU. It's not just anybody or some doctors that were trained. Some of them are the chiefs.
And I will share, my two daughters were born in Los Angeles. My son was born in New York, and he was born at Bellevue Hospital in February 2020. So imagine what just happened right after that. And so that to me is the bar, right? I want to choose to bring my children, my parents, my family, my wife, to Bellevue Hospital, to any of the H&H, but especially Bellevue now that I'm there as the CEO, and say my mom, my daughters, my son, and my wife have all been cared for by Bellevue doctors.
It's great.
You also have another hand online again, Louisa.
I'm sorry, I didn't do anything. It seems to be popping up. My apologies.
Okay.
And so right, for also my job as the CEO is to try to increase and advocate for the pool of dollars to do more good. And so we get funding from the federal government. We get funding through the state. Medicaid is a big part of that dish. Upper payment limit. A lot of those are under threat right now. The proposals for the House and the Senate vote. Them clawing back 80 million from the city's bank account, which I didn't know you could even do. How do you take money out of someone else's bank account for the care of asylum seekers is going to create a big hole. We just expect this hole to get bigger. At the same time, we are doing as much as we can in the infrastructure, like the current building of Bellevue was built in 1940. So the fire alarms are going off, almost on a daily. I'm sure you've heard them. They're deafening. Right?
Emergency.
Yeah. And they're telling me it's like 60 million to replace the fire alarms, but at the same time, right, I need a new pediatric ICU. I knew a lot of things, but we want to focus on the clinical things. And so for this year's ask to our elected officials as well as philanthropy, because of the MSBI closure, we have 4 CT scanners in Bellevue, but 3 of them are end of life, which means they're often down for repair, maintenance. And so if you take out 25% of your capacity, it leads to backup, right? And so as our ED is seeing record volume, as our inpatient has doubled, we need newer CT scanners that are reliable, give us better images, right? Stroke care, trauma care, right? We're the only trauma center, level 1 trauma center, and level 2 for pediatrics south of 68th Street. So that's almost all of Lower Manhattan. And we have this interventional radiology machine. It's called a single plane IR machine, but it's just a fancy way of saying it's what our special radiologists who go through blood vessels, just like when they go for a cardiac cath, they can actually pull clots out of the brain when it's a stroke, and they can pull clots out of the lung when it's a pulmonary embolism. And the alternative, what we used to do is give people this medication that were clot busters that sometimes work too well, right? If you thin the blood too much, they can bleed in your brain, bleed in your lungs. Whereas these are like plumbers that go in there and pull it out. Really cool, right? That machine is also end of life on its last legs. And so part of the whole continuum of stroke care is you get that CT right away, you get that clot pulled out. When you came in, not able to speak, not able to walk, you walk out of the hospital. So pretty cool.
I'm sorry, I didn't read in the paper, I'm sure it was there. Are you going to be able to use the Beth Israel building for your services?
They're becoming condos, aren't they?
Pardon?
Yeah, it's becoming condos.
No.
It's part of the,
Real
yeah,
Part of
I
the
can't
plan.
speak for Mount Sinai. They own it, they own it.
So what, I don't know whether you're assuming Beth Israel is gonna close, but
It is,
It
March
is, okay.
26th.
all right.
was announced yesterday.
So how much would your patient I mean, you said 813 today?
Yes.
How many,
So our best analysis is we'd see about 8,000 more ambulance runs per day, and this is looking at FDNY data and based on how they would map. And so we're unlucky geographically for the FDNY system that First Avenue runs south to north,
Right.
and we're first, and NYU second. So closest ED is us.
yeah,
So, and hard to determine the patient behavior for walk-ins, right? Are they willing to just come up a few blocks to us? Are they more loyal to the Sinai brand and then go to all the way up to Upper East Side to go to main Mount Sinai? That one's a little bit harder, but the ambulance ones, the CAD system has a whole algorithm. They told us to prepare for about 8,000 more visits a year.
One of the big assets is a 24/7 contact line.
Yeah.
Which I find astounding.
The-
I've gotten
the
calls at
the
Saturday
virtual
night at
express
10
care.
o'clock
Yep.
and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's a big asset for the patients, but that must be a negative in terms of more people saying, well, I want to schedule something. I can't spend 3 hours on a Monday morning, so I'm working. I can call at any time and get an appointment. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's another where it's a strength, but
I mean, we've, like I said, we've gone through every other crisis in New York. Sandy hit Bellevue very hard too, evacuation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll get through this as well. Our mission is to keep doing what we're doing and serving those who most need it.
So mostly serve community work 5 and 6. And 1, 2, and 3 days a week.
I'd say, right, a lot
So
of.
basically you're 4 or 5, you're
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
so Renee Kinsella got in touch with me. She's the, do you know who she is? She's the,
From the community board.
the
Yeah.
community advisory.
Advisory board, yep. We have
Yeah,
a meeting too.
and she had sent a resolution that community boards 5 and 6 had passed. So, yeah, my question is, how can we help you?
Yeah. I mean, I think, right, helping to advocate for our elected acts this year, which is our 2 CT scanners and the IR single plane machine, letting them know how critical that is, especially with MSBI closure, and kind of the role that Bellevue plays in Manhattan. I think that would be very helpful.
It's good to have specifics.
Yeah.
This would be to our state electeds?
To city council, to our borough president, state elected, assembly members, state senators, which will be helpful.
Do you get funding from all levels of government, so city, state, and federal?
Yes.
To go to everybody.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky on the Upper West Side. We have multiple hospitals that serve us, but you're actually in a desert.
We have the closest now after Beth Israel, I mean, NYU is right next door, VA is right next door, but special patient
And I can see
population.
you
Yeah.
record 3.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then New York Presbyterian downtown. is the only other hospital. Yeah. So that would be really helpful, and then I think advocating for undocumented rights and healthcare as a right, not a privilege. Like those are kind of bigger federal. It's all under attack, right? All the specialized care. So we have our Pride Clinic. We have our Survivors of Torture Clinic, World Trade Center Clinic. All specialties have some sort of federal grant. And we're fearful that this administration is going to put poison pills into the contracts for these grants that are going to make us say, we're not changing who we are. We can't take those anymore, right? It says like you're going to undo all the things they're against, right?
Renee had, or these two resolutions on the two other community boards were about Medicaid funding. Is that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be hundreds of millions of dollars for the state.
Because my understanding is right now Medicaid covers only about 30% of what the actual cost of coverage is, or cost of care.
Yeah.
But it's 30%.
Louisa.
What?
Louisa?
Again.
Okay, this is slightly off the subject. The resolution is very needed, as is Bellevue. But when St. Vincent's closed, is there any data on that of what happened to the dispersal of their patients? Did you get some of their patients? Where did they go? Somebody must have done some kind of research on that.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers in front of me, and I wasn't here when St. Vincent's closed. But you saw what happened in Queens, the borough of Queens. You saw what is happening in the borough of Brooklyn. Kingsbrook just closed as well. So you're seeing New York City in general losing hospitals, and it's right. Manhattan has this reputation of being the most like overbedded, meaning the most hospital beds per capita, and Queens is the least, right? Because there's only a few hospitals left there. But this trend continues, right? Well, if you like Queens.
People come from all over the city
Yeah.
to Bellevue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's something like 40% of our patients actually come from Brooklyn. So a lot of like northern Brooklyn, Williamsburg, right? They're coming across.
And more.
Any other questions?
Okay, so to move the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay. Move the resolution
Yeah,
and include the specifics.
Yeah.
That we just mentioned.
the two specifics were the two CAT scans. Did you want to add
Two
that
CAT
other?
scans and the IR single plane.
Can you
replacement equipment.
spell that out for me? What is it?
Okay, interventional radiology.
PLANE.
What's that?
PLANE, like single plane.
Single plane, yeah. So single plane, PLANE.
Okay. And that's to replace an old one?
An old one that's
ready.
It's past end of life, so it's really on its
on
last
life
life.
support.
It's on life support.
Yeah. So move the motion.
Yeah, let's, so did everybody get I'm gonna add this to we already drew up a resolution based on the community board 5 and 6 ones. Everybody, I hope, got a chance, on the committee, got a chance to look at it. So, and adding these, all in favor? Or any discussion on it first?
I don't know, you also not a committee member.
What's that?
Very needed. I'm not a committee member.
Oh, just committee members, yeah.
Not gonna go.
We're gonna
I
get.
am a committee.
You are a committee
Well,
member.
no,
And
for
Louisa,
this you are.
Yeah,
Count
Right,
Louisa.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that's
count
good.
Louisa.
1, 2,
And on Louisa's
3,
on it.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Did you count Louisa?
Yes.
Okay.
7, and then non-committee board members. 1, anybody
No one else is
online?
on.
Beverly signed off, so did Semer. You just have Louisa.
Okay. So this will go to our full
Count me
board.
twice.
I counted you twice?
No, just like
You can.
Oh, no.
And it's likely if it passes here, it's gonna pass full.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Really
The
appreciate it.
next Tuesday is our full board meeting. We don't expect you to
Yeah.
show up.
Okay.
But I'd say the prospects are very good.
Thank you for
My
coming.
pleasure.
It was an
We
honor.
really appreciate
Yeah.
your comment.
Yeah. Thank you.
And-
If there's anything I could do to.
Well, we're
to help.
certainly gonna pass that resolution.
Okay,
And
sounds good.
give it to whomever will receive it.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'll have Sage share my contact information. If you guys need anything, please reach out.
And if any particular horrifying thing comes up from the federal government that you think we could do
Yes.
something about, please notify us.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you going to other community boards?
You're Max.
Yeah, it's only, yeah.
Just us?
Okay.
Thank you
so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, what time is it? Maybe another 15 or 20 minutes on
15.
immigration?
I can do 15.
Okay.
Thank you for being patient.
Yeah, of course. That was really important.
Anybody have any questions for
We have
Carol?
to get back.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If somebody says, am I free to go? And the ICE agent says, no, you're not, which is illegal. Or is that illegal? Can they say that? And what do you do if they do say that?
So they can, excuse me, they can say whatever they want. If they say you're not free to go, then you follow up. Am I being detained?
Mm.
Am I under arrest? Why am I being detained? You know, just keep the conversation going, keep it polite, and continue to say, I would like to speak to a lawyer. Yeah, if an actual arrest is happening, a detention is happening, then the advice is to continue to assert your rights verbally. I want to speak to a lawyer. I don't consent to this search. I'm not impeding anything, and don't fight. Don't fight. Continue to assert your rights verbally, and don't fight back. And get an attorney.
So the intensity of the ICE picking people up is great. I mean, it's really increased dramatically in the last month or so. Has ICE let people go? I mean, when they say that I'm a lawyer, I'm not consenting, I want to go.
So, interesting about the intensity of ICE picking people up having exploded in the last month. There was a big, well-publicized, well-choreographed raid in the Bronx.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Starring Christine Ohm.
Right.
And then, since then, it's been really hard to get specific data. So ICE is continually saying, we're getting so many, we're taking so many, we're doing all of this, but we don't really know. What we do know, or what I do know from contact with first responders, rapid responders, and ICE Watch groups, is that families and people have been successful at keeping ICE from entering apartments by saying exactly what I've been saying over and over. They will go away rather than break down the door. One of the things they're doing, since they've gotten quotas, is somebody will make a mistake, like our friend here with the housing building. Somebody will let ICE in. Oh, that's you, that's you. Oh, you look completely different over here. Somebody will let ICE in, and then they'll just go door to door to door to door, knock, 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 right? They're just trying to sweep up whoever they can sweep up. And if the person on the other side has knowledge, has cards, has practice, has, you know, some awareness, ICE will move on for the most part. And I don't know if you saw that really gratifying quote from Tom Homan after Chicago, where he was saying Chicago was such a hard city for ICE to do their work in because the people were going to these know your rights things, and you know, it was an educated population, and he was really, really pissed about that, which is awesome. That's like the goal, right?
Their governor was also pretty tough.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty tough, good.
So yeah, spread the information, spread the knowledge, put stacks of cards in places. You know, you don't have to have a personal conversation with folks, just make it available.
Rachel had a question.
Yes.
So I understand that we're able to ask the ICE officers questions, basically on behalf of the person that may be, you know, in contact with them. But what is the particular reasoning of like us being allowed to do that and them having to answer the question? Like, is it based off of the fact that they're like a public officer and we're like, you know?
I don't know the minutia of the law. The one that is absolutely solid is if you ask, what agency are you with? What precinct are you with? What's your name? And can I see a business card and a badge number? They're not allowed to lie about that. So if they're like taping badges or putting, they'll often have jackets over stuff that makes their designations not entirely obvious. All of that is good to document. I don't know the legislation that says they have to answer your questions, but there is no legislation that says you can't ask them. Yeah.
Do you have a sense of how cooperative the New York Police Department is with ICE? Are they just giving them whatever they want?
I don't. Yeah, I can't speak directly to that because I don't have direct knowledge of that. I think we all know what the mayor would like.
But that's not always what happens.
Right, that's right.
Louisa, you got a question? Louisa,
Louisa, did you have a question?
did you have a question or is your hand just up from the previous vote?
No.
It's an old thing.
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep on top of it. Yeah.
I had another question.
Yeah.
This thing about opening the door.
Yeah.
Can you open it a crack just to see who it is, or you just don't open the door?
Just don't open it. You can talk through a door, especially in New York City, where,
Okay.
you know, most of the
So
construction is.
so opening the door is already consent.
Opening the door is consent. And opening the door also gives an officer, an ICE officer, an opportunity to put their foot in and prevent you from closing it. And it's escalate. Just don't open the door.
Are there any spaces that are like inherently sanctuaries? I don't know how it applies in this country. Like I know in other countries, like if there's a church service or something going on that.
Well, it should have been if we were sanctuary city. We were a sanctuary
Yeah,
city.
But
You could not go into a house of worship. You could not go into a public school.
right now, does anything exist like that?
There was a case last week. I actually didn't read the decision, but there was a case that is preventing ICE from going into certain kinds of houses of worship at certain hours, but not across the board.
I think
So
it was the Quakers,
Yes,
filed a
They're
lawsuit.
So it was never a law keeping ICE out of houses of worship. It was an agreement. It was a policy written by ICE, recognizing sensitive locations. Schools, houses of worship, hospitals, stuff like that.
Bed press.
That has been rescinded. Many different faith leaders have brought suit to challenge that. But at this moment, the safest assumption is protect the space, create a private space, put a sign on the door that says ICE is not welcome without a judicial warrant, make sure that there's a protocol in place and the staff know it in case anything is happening. Make as many private spaces as possible. In SPSA, the sanctuary is a private space. So nobody can go in without passing a gatekeeper, basically, who makes sure that they're okay. Nobody can come past the desk without signing in and identifying themselves.
And the public school have the security, so you can't come in and take the prescriptions.
Yeah, and then DOE actually has a pretty good policy that the principal then has to call Department of Education counsel. So they can't even just say, come on in.
And I work one day a week at NYU in an outpatient area, but they sent out a memo recently saying that no one was allowed to, if ICE came to any of these facilities, they have to see security first.
Yep.
Just like you said.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was good to
You have
get.
to set your perimeters.
You have to set
Yeah.
your perimeters, yeah. And I mean, the more spaces you can delineate as private, the more security you're creating, the more barriers.
Is it
you're-
like
It is so
is it
small.
like a stacking thing where it's every time it's like you have private space in a private space,
Oh, yeah, yeah. If,
like a Russian doll?
yeah,
And
exactly.
organizations have been tonight, Rutgers Church had a program on immigration.
Mhm.
But many of the organizations that you work with have had sessions where they've trained people from a variety of organizations on how to.
You can make every office
Yeah.
in a building a private space. In places of business, it's helpful and it's sometimes necessary to create one private space in case folks need a place to get to that's going to be behind a door.
What do you do in a business that invites people in, like a restaurant? How do you create the private space since you're asking people to come into?
You close off like a break room. You put a door on the kitchen that says private. You empty out a closet, put a private sign on there.
Yeah.
The private is what you say. The private space is whatever you decide it to be. And if nothing else, you bring like dividers, and it doesn't even have to have a ceiling. And you say private, nobody can go into this space. An important piece is make sure that you're enforcing that.
Right.
Make sure that nobody can go into that space without going by somebody. Any last questions? And then I'm gonna have to call it a night.
Yeah,
This was great.
yeah, we really appreciate
Oh,
it.
my pleasure.
But not now, to each one of our buildings.
So if we want to get in touch with you, is there a way to get in touch? Like if we want to get more information about what you're doing or?
Yeah, do you have Kay's contact?
Mhm.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can go through Kay. He's like, we're on speed dial with each other.
Great.
So
If things get even worse than we think they're going, can we call you back? No, I really, I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
would
would say.
I think they are probably gonna get worse, and this is
Yeah.
gonna be an ongoing conversation.
And I can
Thank
bring
you
a
so much.
report from
Yeah, my
DC,
pleasure.
3 open arms. So we meet once a month. Yeah, I can report back to the school
From
That's
D3
good.
Open Hearts.
from DC 3 open arms.
Yeah.
Good.
And do
I
take
mean,
cards to
they
leave
deal
around
more
your
with the
neighborhood.
children. But also with.
Yes.
So,
Thank you all for
Thank
being
you.
interested
Oh,
and wanting
thank you.
to know the information.
Thank you.
That's what,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
we keep the community safe that we're in. So that's awesome.
so
Thank
All right,
you.
I'm off. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
thank you.
Bye. Louisa, right? Yep. Bye, Louisa.
So any new business? We got
Those are
through the current business.
Yeah, good business.
Changing the meeting time.
Yeah, we do have a request from Roberta that we change the meeting time to 6:30 to conform to all the other committees.
One of the people who was instrumental in the 7 o'clock was Audrey, who can no longer attend our meetings.
Okay. I thought maybe it was you.
No,
No, not at all.
Okay.
so there doesn't seem to be anybody here.
Should we vote on it? Or is there just consensus?
I don't think you need to vote.
I think there's a consensus. Is that
Unless
okay?
unless anybody cannot make
Is it okay with everybody here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I will change it in the handbook and then so.
There you go,
Okay,
the official.
good.
Done.
All right, I'll make sure
Solid.
it's changed on our end moving forward too.
Okay with you, Louisa?
I said yes.
What she
She
said?
said yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well,
This is good
So,
meeting.
so
Good
can
meeting,
can I
yes.
introduce myself?
Oh, yeah,
and,
sure.
Oh, yeah. we
See
want-
how this works? I My name is Diane Burhenny. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I am very interested in becoming much more involved in our community. I have a longer resume that's on file. I found the notification. I submitted an application and my resume to to be a public member. And I got notification that you had my application and my resume. And I noted on my resume that I had a great deal of experience in mental health, both administratively, developing programs and running programs in New York, and also clinical experience.
Just a quick interruption. I think this conversation might be more appropriate with the co-chairs and maybe Max.
Yeah.
I don't know if it relates to the entire.
Okay, I have no
That's good to
idea
know.
of
Yeah.
what the process
I
is.
think you need to speak with Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just in the back room. First, I just want to know, here, you can come back here. We can talk if you want. First, I just want to know when that was, or come back here, or,
Yeah, I
we'll meet
have
in the
all the
hall.
information
But
recorded.
that being said, anybody can come to these meetings, whether you're a public member or not.
Can't vote.
Yeah,
You can't vote, but you certainly can speak and be heard. And
Right.
we've had over the years, many, many years ago, we had public members, and you just had to show up 3 times and you were a public member. And the problem with that is it negatively impacted the quorum for some groups. So we stopped it. Recently, they started that there would be 1 public member. But I would recommend whoever doesn't become a public member of the committee that's interested in the committee should keep coming to participate in the
So
committees.
I'm going to
because
find out about, I do want to do this formally, and I would like to become a public member. And perhaps if it works for the year for me, I will apply through the borough president's office to become a more formal.
you have till,
Wait,
you have till
I'm-
Friday.
Oh, I submitted to.
No.
hang on. I think I've actually solved the problem altogether. Did you say your name is Diane Burhen? Oh, yeah. Your resume actually is in the public member application drive.
Okay.
When did you submit it, though?
I
Well,